Normally at this time, I've seen you at Cannes Lions,
Yes.
and unfortunately because of COVID-19, they couldn't put it on as they normally do for the first time, but there is the platform Lions Live. Why do you think for you and for what you represent, Cannes Lions is such an important platform?
It's a platform where we have some of the greatest storytellers in that world come together. And that's also where we launched the Lion's Share first, because it made sense that we're trying to, and we have been quite, well, the Lion's Share, I shouldn't include me, but the Lion's Share has been very successful in attracting that community and saying, listen, we all have a responsibility. We can all share in the solutions, and this is an idea that originates from that community.
Nikolaj, in your role as UNDP Goodwill Ambassador, you've been involved with the Lion's Share campaign. How has it grown since the launch?
It's attracted, a lot of interest. A lot of new partners have joined. I think before the pandemic, the Gucci Group became a major partner. I know, I can't give you the names, but I know there's a whole line of major brands that will be revealed later this year. And I think it's one of those beautiful things that, you just sense that the awareness is growing. Working together with the UNDP, there's a transparency and a very quick route, if you will, from donation to action. I believed in from the first time I heard about this, because it's just like, yes, we have animals in ads all the time. Well, obviously they're not being compensated. What if we could take just half a percentage point of the ad spend and put it into this fund, and then spend that money to actually help the natural world? It's simple and it's accessible, and we can all understand it. Even I can understand it, and that's why I think it's growing. And I really do believe that we'll be very impactful over the next few years.
What kind of impact do you think that the coronavirus has had on the work of the Lion's Share and the work that it supports at the moment?
Everything is complex. Do you remember in the beginning of the pandemic, you saw these amazing stories that came out about how nature was kind of reclaiming lost territory, if you will. Those stories about, I remember some sea turtles on the beaches in Thailand, where because there weren't any tourists, suddenly there was room for them, which was a wonderful thing. You go, this is fantastic. You saw the CO2 levels, emissions go down drastically. Obviously, there's no transportation. People weren't flying, and of course the canals of Venice, all these things, which you would think was great. But then you realize that, okay, there are no tourists traveling anywhere. A lot of the parks around the world, the restoration projects depend on tourists. That's how they fund the work they do. That's how they pay the park rangers, because they have tourists that come to these parks. And they don't have any tourists, there's no income. If there's no income, there's no salaries to be paid. People lose their jobs. They have to feed their families. Suddenly we have seen a rise in poaching. We've seen a rise in deforestation, all these things. It's not because people suddenly don't like animals, but because it's our necessity. You have to survive. One of the things the Lion's Share did was they asked for proposals for small grants, and they received, I think it was almost 1,600, and it was from all kinds of places and ideas, and some great ideas of saying, how can we keep this business going? Maybe we can do a virtual tourism, but basically a way to sustain all these people, because as you know, we're sitting here, I'm in my home, you're in your home, I assume, and we can go to work. We can stay, socially distant, but for half the workforce on this planet, that's not an option. You have to get out there. And if there's no work, well, you don't make a living. It's exposed, another thing this pandemic exposed, of course, is like this very fundamental inequality. And again, it's the weakest that are hit the hardest. So So Lionshare is trying and trying to help where we can, and that's why we're desperate to include more partners, to have more funds, to do more, because massive donations are great, and you go in and spend a lot of money. We've also invested in buying up land, but sometimes these small grants can make a huge difference in people's lives, and that's also really important. I remember in the mid-2000s, how everybody was talking about climate change, about how we had to do something for the environment. You remember the first Al Gore film?
Yes.
Was at the very top of everybody's agenda. I think when you looked at what people prioritized, climate and climate action was at the very top. Then the financial crisis hit, and within a year, it was not even on the agenda anymore. And then we've had this long growth till now. We have another possible massive recession, even worse. But I just pray that we don't make the same mistake. I mean, this is the opportunity. This is kind of it. You know, we know we're going to invest so much money. We're going to do that on a grand scale, and we have to make that transition. We have to go into to a greener world, to renewable energy sources. We have to make that switch. And when I started talking to you, I mentioned how it was interesting to see that when our leaders stand up and talk to us as grown-ups, we get it. We're ready to act. We don't have a problem with that. It's more when it becomes this political nonsense. That's when we kind of just go, we fade out in a way, if that makes sense. And I think that now we really need our leaders to say, we're going to invest all this money. We're going to get everybody back to work. We're going to try our hardest, but we're also going to make this switch, because this is it. We have to take action to save the future of our planet. You do sense there is a moment now in history that is going to be very important. We are at crossroads in so many ways. But I think this pandemic, hopefully, will look back and say, okay, that was a horrific tragedy, but in the wake of that, great change was made. But that's you can only hope. I mean, it would be, I can't imagine it not happening. I can imagine, of course, you can imagine everything, but this is the opportunity to reset everything.